It is so wonderful and terrifying standing here. First of all, I must apologize because I'm standing behind the lectern. I'm doing it out of respect for the camera here to be able to capture me, but I am European. So one of the things about Europeans is that we move a lot. Okay? So how do you keep an Italian or Maltese person quiet? By simply tying their hands behind their back, right? And they cannot talk. Well, this is pretty much me. I feel that it's an honor, it's a privilege to be able to speak here, to talk to you about my heart. Because even though this is something that maybe you're curious about, something that is new, something that is uncertain, I want to speak to you from the perspective of my story, the perspective of my heart. I just need to underline this just in case you're waiting for it. I am not an intellectual. I don't know how to be an intellectual. Now, I have 5 university degrees. Here I am boasting already. But you'd never tell. Never tell by having a conversation with me. And the reason is that I'm a heart person. I am a person who speaks from their heart. I speak at different conferences around the world. I get to speak at a conference in Los Angeles every year, and very often I get to be the keynote speaker at this conference. 45,000 people at this conference. And here I am about to go and give the first time that I was going to give a keynote to these Catholic educators from around the world. And I was about to go onto stage, but just before me was someone who was so clever, so intellectual that I didn't understand half of the things that he was saying. And I go up to the organizer, her name is Jan, I say, Jan, listen, I don't know how to speak like this. And she sort of punched me in a friendly way. She said, Father Rob, if we wanted something intellectual, we wouldn't have invited you. And I thought, thank you, Jesus. And thank you, Jan. Because you see, this is not what I am about. I love Jesus. And this may sound strange to some, but I am in love with Jesus. He saved my life. He saved my soul. And I stand here alive because of His mercy, because of His love. And I will stop at nothing to proclaim His name. I'm not here to talk about my work, but simply everything that I do is because I am in love. I wouldn't be here. I'm an introvert. I would so much rather be hanging out with my little dog. And I'll just say this, that my dog is cuter than your dog. You see, minding my own business. But the reason I do this is because I cannot stop. I need to tell the world about what I have experienced. As a teenager, 13 years old, I ran away from home and I was an addict. To cut a very long story short, I had a very distorted relationship with my parents. And I ended up in a place of desperation, a place where I didn't want to be anywhere near my parents. I rebelled, I was angry, I was frustrated. Now my parents were strict, and I know some of you, I imagine, had strict parents. Some of you are strict parents. But I used to get into trouble even before I did anything wrong. I'd be minding my own business, a good day, and I'm ready to go to school, and I'm minding my own business, and I'm having my cereal, and I'll get boom on the back of my head. And I'll turn around, I'll say, Dad, what was that for? I didn't do anything wrong. And he'd point at me and he'd say, Rob, you haven't done anything wrong yet, but you will. And so I always felt that I wasn't good enough. I always felt that I wasn't worthy enough. I'd give him my school report and say, Dad, look, I've passed my exams. And he'd look at the report and he'd say, that's fantastic, Rob. Fantastic, but I'm sure you're going to fail next time. Now, the reason why he told me that was because he's saying, like, Rob, keep working hard. Because if you don't keep working hard, you're not going to pass. But the message I got was, no matter how hard you work, you will never be good enough. And so I ended up rebelling, running away from home, 13 years old. By the time I was 14, living on the streets. By the time I was 15, so addicted, I didn't even know who I was anymore. By the time I was 16, I started hanging out with gangs, and in places where I started stealing, I started dealing, I started doing things that I could never have imagined possible, fighting people with gang fights, beating them up, even to the point of death. And I didn't care, because all I wanted was to be liked, to be loved. But then something happened when I was 17 years old. I had an encounter with the love of God that changed my life forever. I experienced God's presence, God's love, and God's mercy in my life. And I remember experiencing this incredible moment, one moment, several moments, but one moment in particular, where I was sitting in my room, in the same place where I used to self-harm, the same place that I used to wish I wasn't alive anymore, the same place where I attempted to take my own life, sitting there, minding my own business, just trying to pray because, you see, someone had told me, Rob, why don't you try praying? And I sat down on the chair, and I put a chair in front of me, and I tapped the chair. I said, Jesus, sit down, I want to talk to you. And it was a strange moment. I didn't feel anything, but something happened at that moment as I persevered in prayer. I felt a sense of the presence of God to the point where it broke my heart. I remember just experiencing this incredible sense of love, this incredible sense of peace, to the point where I fall to my knees and I start crying, and I have to get a pillow to hold it to my face because I couldn't stop crying for 2 hours just because of this encounter of love. I couldn't believe that God still loved me in spite of my mess. And I got up, and you know what the first thought was in my mind? Was not how amazing this feeling is, or even thank you, God, for changing my life. My first thought was this: God, I need to tell someone about this. I need to tell the world about this. And believe me, I did. I went to school and I started to tell people, guess what? Last night Jesus showed me his love. And can you imagine? They thought I was crazy. They thought I was crazy, but I couldn't keep it to myself. I just couldn't. This was over a long time ago. And I haven't stopped. I'm more passionate than ever. I'm more passionate than ever to speak about the love of Jesus. Now, what happened? Long story short, I became a priest. I started this ministry, but I was a musician. And I started writing music. I got signed with Sony Records for a while, and I started touring, and I started playing music. And eventually I found my vocation to the priesthood, and I was ready to give it all up. But somehow God continued to use this gift that I had. Can I tell you, many people know me as a musician. They recognize me as a musician. But I want to tell you this, that I don't consider myself a musician. What I am is an evangelist. I want to tell the world about Jesus. Now, I'll use anything. I will use music. I will use gym selfies. I'll use anything I have to show people that a mess like me can still love Jesus. That a mess like me can still serve Jesus. This is the foundation. Even what you're thinking, like, Father Rob, what's it got to do with AI and the metaverse generation? But the reality is, the foundation of everything that I'm going to talk about, the foundation of everything that I do, stems from this love of Jesus. Now, as I said, I'm not here to give you the intellectual stuff about AI. All I know is that I'm going to use everything within my reach to tell the world about Jesus. And that includes AI and the metaverse. Now, about myself, what I do now is I travel around the world speaking to people. On a live capacity, I speak to over 1.6 million people across the world. And so I get to travel around the world, I get to speak, I get to talk to people. But another thing is that somehow the way things have turned out is that I get to travel around the world and I get to do this, but during the pandemic, something happened. Everything shut down. I couldn't speak. I couldn't go around the world. I couldn't do anything. And so I decided during the pandemic, I was celebrating Mass alone at home. And so I said, look, might as well set up a camera and celebrate Mass online. And first, 50 people tuned in, 100 people. Now, just by mid-2020, we had 60,000, 80,000 people celebrating Mass with me in my living room every single Sunday. And it started to grow and grow and grow. And from there, we started Icon Ministry. Now, Icon Ministry, why Icon Ministry? Because we want to show the image of God, Jesus, who is the true icon of the Father. And this is why this is what we do. This is the reason why we do what we want to do, is to tell people about Jesus. Having said this, I'm going to sing a song. And the reason I'm going to sing this song, because this song talks about not having all of the answers. You know, I don't have all of the answers. I'm here talking about AI. I use AI all the time. Our ministry runs on AI. We have 6 staff members, which is a very small team, but we reach almost 4 million young people every year just using 6 staff members. Can you imagine? 4 million young people that engage with our content, that engage with us on live capacity, our social media. And a lot of the work that we do through artificial intelligence. And I'll try and explain a little bit of how we do this. And how we use also the Metaverse. There's a lot of fuss, there's a lot of talk about AI, but what about the Metaverse? You see, at the moment, the AI is loud, but the Metaverse is here. The Metaverse is here. And Jesus tells us to go to the ends of the earth to proclaim Him. And so we must go to places, even that we're scared to go, like the first missionaries that went out. They didn't have all of the answers. They didn't know the people they would meet. They didn't know the hostility they would find. They didn't know whether things would be right. They didn't know if they would disturb people. They didn't know a lot of things, but they went anyway because they couldn't stop. And here's my fear, is that the church is terrified. It's scared of the unknown. And I'm scared that the church is going to be left behind because we spend too much time sometimes assessing the documents, assessing the morality of it, which is good, which we need to do, but not at the cost of proclaiming Jesus. There's something about you. I'm going to change that one, wrong key. There's like when you sing, there's a muscle memory, and you think there's something wrong here. There's something about you that calms my weary soul. There's something about you that reaches from the cold. There's something about you that changes everything. Something about you makes me want to say something about you. Something about you brings me to my knees. Something about you makes my life complete. There's something about you that rolls away the stone. There's something about you that gently makes me whole. And I bow before you, Lord, and I give you my all. Now, as I said, we speak through live events. I get to speak at many live events across the world. I was just 2 days ago, I was speaking in Thailand, and I'm here in Canberra. Next week I'm leading a retreat. I'll be in Brazil speaking to 200,000 women just shortly after this, and I get to speak at schools all around the world. And I love to do what I do, but this is not the only thing that we do. We also use technology. We have a film studio where we create content. We create content using AI as a system called Unreal Engine, where we create content that looks like you're in a particular place, but you're actually in another place. And it saves us a lot of time. It saves us a lot of energy, where before we used to have to set up cameras and spend half a day going to the beach. Now we just press a button and all of a sudden we're at the beach. And people won't know the difference between me being there and me being at the beach. And you think this is deceptive, but at the same time, I'm not telling people I'm at the beach, and I'm happy to tell them I'm not, but the point is sometimes it saves so much resources, it saves us so much time, and it allows us to do so much more work, so much more outreach than we used to before. Before, it used to take us a whole day just to set up cameras and lighting in a particular location. Then you set everything up, and then it rains, and then it's windy, and we've missed a whole day of wages paid, and it's a whole mess. But now, thank God, because of technology, we're able to do things like that. We create resources for teachers, for schools, where we try to change a culture within Catholic schools and help them understand what it means to be a true Catholic, what it means to follow Jesus, what it means to respect and to love and to understand the church. But here's the thing, out of all of the things that we have done, all of the things that we do, we noticed one thing, is that there was a generation that was missing. And that was the Alpha generation. Generation A, if you like. Now, we have at our events, we had 103-year-olds come to our talks and to our missions and our events, and we had 15-year-olds, and we had 30-year-olds and families and young families. But somehow, the Alpha generation seemed to be missing. Well, who's the Alpha generation? The Alpha generation is from 0 to 13. That generation, which is the COVID generation, the introverted generation, the self-titled generation, the generation that are triggered and are being trained to be triggered and to be upset, and the generation that are completely being formed by technology, by the opinion of what their screens are telling them. This generation, now I know your children, your grandchildren are different, but let's talk about the general Alpha generation. It is a generation that is being manipulated. It's a generation that is being hidden, pulled away from reality, from social life. And we thought, what are we going to do? How are we going to reach out to this generation? Where are they? And you know, the young 15, Generation Z, Generation Z, they're on social media, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, they're on Be Real, they're on all of these, Snapchat, they're all on these platforms. So we reach out extensively, and we outreach extensively on these platforms. But what about the Alpha generation? Where are they? Can you tell me where they are? Where do they spend most of their time? Tell me. In their bedroom doing what? YouTube? 2 places. YouTube and Roblox. YouTube and Roblox. What we thought, Roblox, you're thinking, what the heck is Roblox? I'll explain it to you, don't worry. Roblox is the biggest Metaverse platform in the world. Roblox is the biggest Metaverse platform in the world, and it is thriving, and it is controlling your children, your grandchildren, because you have no idea what it is. And because you have no idea, and it's so complicated, you allow them to continue playing, you allow them to continue using this, and I'm not here to advocate against Roblox, but I'm here to tell you that that's where they are. They're on the Metaverse. What is the Metaverse? The Metaverse is a collective, virtual, shared space. It's not one space. It's not one video game. It's not one place. It's a shared space created by the convergence of virtually enhanced physical reality and physical, persistent, virtual space. This is the most intellectual I'm going to get, mind you. Okay, because I had to read this 10 times to try and understand it. So what is it? It's different platforms. Now we know, for example, Facebook. How many of you know what Facebook is? Okay. Now your Facebook, your Instagram, those are single spaces. They're virtually enhanced realities, but they're separate from each other. Just imagine all of these realities now that they converge together. One world. You can jump from one to another seamlessly. But what happens is this. Just to try and explain what Roblox is. Guess how many use Roblox every day? 72 million young people every single day are on Roblox. 72 million. Where is the church? Where is the church on Roblox? Nowhere. Absolutely nowhere. We scoured, we looked everywhere to see where the church was. And if there were remnants of the church, there were places of evangelizing, it was pathetic. It was absolutely pathetic. It was a place where young people couldn't have this real encounter, this real engagement. So what we did was we hired a company and we said, look, 72 million young people, we want to go and we want to reach out to people on this platform. Roblox platform. So what is Roblox? Basically, it's a lot of video games. To put it simply, a lot of video games. And what happens is this young person creates an avatar. Do you know what an avatar is? Like this character. They could be a cat, they could be a human, could be their likeness or not their likeness. And what they do is they go into this game, but it's not only this game. From this game, they can open a portal and they can go from Minecraft. Have you heard of Minecraft? And they open a door, and all of a sudden they're in Fortnite. And they open another door, and they're in this game and in this game. And not only that, the different players come in and they can talk to each other. They can have a conversation with each other. Now, there was a big problem with Roblox, and it hit the news because there was a lot of grooming there. There was a lot of abuse there. But parents had no idea. What is Roblox? And so Roblox and then became more strict with the way they ran things. And so what we did was, anyway, we spent months and months and months with thinking, and we're praying. What are we going to do to reach out to these people on this metaverse? And so we started seeing what we could do, but we realized it's too expensive to build a game. We got quotes of $4 million, $10 million to create a proper game. And so we thought, okay, I'm going to try. And so we went and we raised some money. And so we managed to develop this game. And we started to think, what are we going to do? So we wanted to give the entire charisma to these young people on Roblox. So we decided to build this cathedral on Roblox, this beautiful looking cathedral. Now this cathedral what happens is the avatars go into this wonderful cathedral. And what they do is they're met by three saints, Carlo Acutis, they're met by Mother Teresa, and they're met by Saint Augustine. And through these three, they're led through this place, through the cathedral. And there are 7 windows within these cathedrals. This cathedral. The first window, they jump into this virtual world where they experience the story of creation. Then they complete this game. And during that time, Mother Teresa is talking to them, explaining the gospel to them. Then they come out of this game once they complete this level. And then they go into another game, another level, where they experience then the story of Moses, the choosing of God's people, that God wants to choose you also. He loves you also. And they experience the gospel. Eventually they come to the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus. At the end of the game, what do they have to do? They have to make a decision whether they want to become a meta-saint. What does that mean? What does it mean to be a saint? It means to be a follower of Jesus, right? to be someone who's committed to be like Jesus, to love Jesus, to follow him. And so we created this game. And we launched this game, and within 4 days, we had over 1 million young people come to this game. This was the Easter weekend. We got a lot of criticism. Why are you releasing a video game on Easter weekend? Well, you had your bums on your seats in your churches, but they had their bums on their seats in their bedroom, hiding. So they weren't coming to the gospel, so what are we going to do? The most important weekend, we're going to bring the gospel to them. And so they go through this journey where they experience the life, the death, and the resurrection of Jesus. I'm just going to show you a little demo of the game, a little demo of what this game looks like. Now, we're not here, I want to say this, I'm not here to endorse Roblox. It's not the point. We never advertise and tell people, go to Roblox to play this game. Mind you, if you want, go to Roblox and play this game. But we advertise within Roblox. You are in Roblox. You've been spending 8 hours every day on this platform. Come and hear the gospel message. Go back to your games after that, but come and hear this gospel message and listen to this story. Now, this trailer, of course, is tailored to young people. Now, we strive to preach the gospel. Jesus again tells us to go to the ends of the earth. We just want to tell people about Jesus. But there's a problem, you see. They're stuck in the virtual world. What about now? What are they going to do? They play this video game, then what? First of all, our responsibility as Christians is to sow seeds. This is what we're called to do, to sow the seed of the gospel in the lives of people. But now we're trying to raise funds again to try and connect them through other programs like Discord and other virtual programs to get them eventually to join, for example, an alpha course or to go to a youth group or to connect them with local parishes. But as you can imagine, it's a long process, especially with the child safety restrictions. You can't go up to a young person and say, hey, come to my youth group. We're not able to do that. So we have to be very clever about it. And this is how we start to use artificial intelligence. This is how we start to go into places where we cannot reach, but somehow we can slowly try to allow these people to realize that they need not just the virtual world, but the real world. Does this make sense at all? And so this is where we are. We don't have all of the answers. We just threw ourselves out into the deep, where we created this game, where we created this experience. But this is just stage one of many stages where we want, ultimately, for them to experience God's love within a community, within a communal space. I know that you usually have questions at the end, but if any, and maybe I might be going against the rules, but if there at any point that you have a question that you'd like to ask, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. Now, again, if I'm breaking the rules, I'll take that. I'm breaking the rules.
Go ahead.
Okay. So if anyone has any questions, for me to clarify more than anything, I'll be more than happy to do that. So I'm just going to stop for 30 seconds. If you have any questions, you can ask. Or else we can stare at each other awkwardly. I don't mind as well. Yes?
Did you reconcile with your parents?
Did I reconcile with my parents? Absolutely. I'm the closest to my parents. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my parents. You see, there were times where I was locked in my room, and I was self-harming, and I was just absolutely in a place of desperation. And my parents would knock at the door, and they'd say, "Rob, are you okay?" And every time I'd slam the door in their face and just swear and shout at them. I'd say, "Mom, just leave me alone, leave me alone." And I got to write this book, this story of, and as a priest, I told my mom, "Listen, Mom, I want you to read this book because this is a chapter where I talk about how angry I am at you. How angry I am at you. Why? My question to my parents was, why didn't you do more? why didn't you break down that door? Why didn't you go and hug me and kick, and allow me to kick and to scream and tell me I was going to be okay? Because I didn't know I was going to be okay. But my parents, when we had this conversation, my mom started crying. And I said, Mom, why are you crying? And she said, there's one thing you don't know. She said, every time you slam that door in our face, you see, your dad and I would fall to our knees outside your room. According to your book, you were on your knees, just rocking on your bed, harming yourself, just wanting this pain to go away. She said, but one thing you don't know is that we would kneel down outside your room, and we'd cry, and we'd pray, God, save our little angel. That's me. And honestly, I stand here because my parents never gave up on me. They couldn't reach to me, but they knew someone who could, and that was Jesus. They had faith in Jesus, and they kept praying. I kept getting worse, but they continued to pray. They continued to pray because they trusted in God. And I stand here alive, I stand here as a priest because of their perseverant prayer. I think it's Matthew 7:7. Ask and you will receive, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. The actual Greek word is keep on asking and you will receive. Keep on seeking, you will find. Keep on knocking and the door will be open to you. And so, again, this is what I do with my life. I keep on knocking. If they're not answering through my preaching, then I'm going to knock on the door of the Roblox. They're not answering on Roblox, I'm going to inspire people who are inspired by the gym selfies. I'm going to talk to them about Jesus. I'm going to use music. I'm knocking on doors. I just want to keep on knocking on doors to tell people about Jesus. Any other questions or comments? Yes. So we advertise MetaSaint through a program, through something called UGCs, okay? UGCs are basically free equipment for the avatar. So we gave them angel wings, for example. But it was a limited edition, so they would come in and they'd go for these angel wings. But and then once it starts gaining traction, you know, millions of people hear about it and they come to the game. So we advertise through the means within Roblox itself. We also buy portals from Lego games and from other games. And we went to violent games especially, to open portals there. They see this creepy church door, and they go into this church door, and they find this beautiful cathedral. And so, so we do it through portals as well. We're not very deceptive, but we are a bit. So let's talk a little bit about AI. Now, again, I'm not here to talk about the moral issues of AI. There are many moral issues of AI. We're in a place where we're terrified. We're scared. But one thing that I'm scared of when it comes to artificial intelligence, and what is artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence is technology that mimics human intelligence, including learning, problem solving, and decision making. Have any of you used any kind of AI? Okay? So AI is very useful. It's amazing. And I wish that we wouldn't start with a stance of fear. We would understand that God uses every situation. Romans 8:28 uses every situation for the good of those who love him. That we would take this. And the church has always embraced new technology. But at the same time, we need to be aware of the reality. Now, I can give you a few examples of how I use AI. I can give you examples of ChatGPT. I can give you examples of the things that we use in processes. But I can tell you this. Since we have started using AI, our capacity to reach out to people, to resource people, to equip people, and especially within schools, has increased so tremendously. And even my homilies have become better. Because you see, I use ChatGPT for my scheduling, I use it for my homilies, I use it for so many different things. Can I give you an example for those of you who don't know, okay? I'm going to give you an example here.
You're welcome. If you need any more help, feel free to reach out. Good luck with your talk.
So I'm a Catholic priest, and I give homilies online. My audience is a varied audience where I speak to people from all around the world. My general audience is from 17 years old to about 65 years old. Now, this weekend's gospel is John 21, verse 15 to the end of the chapter. Now, I want to give a short homily, a very short homily. In fact, I just want 3 points. Give me 3 points that I can use on John 21 from verse 15 onwards, and that I can utilize in my homily to inspire the Catholics that are listening to me to love Jesus more.
Sure. Here are 3 points you can use for your homily on John 21, 15 to 25. 1. Jesus' forgiveness and restoration. In this passage, Jesus asks Peter 3 times if he loves him, mirroring Peter's 3 denials. This shows Jesus' desire to forgive and restore us, no matter how many times we fail. Emphasize how Jesus' love and mercy are always available to us, encouraging your listeners to seek reconciliation and deepen their love for Jesus through confession and renewal. 2. Love in action. Jesus tells Peter, "Feed my lambs, tend my sheep, and feed my sheep." This highlights that loving Jesus means taking care of others and serving the community. Encourage your audience to express their love for Jesus through acts of service, kindness, and support for those in need. Following Peter's example.
Anyway, you get the point. Okay? So what this does, and then it writes it out for me here. So what it does is it gives me 3 points for my homily. And it tells me what to think about, what to reflect on. Now, you start to think, that's not fair, that's not inspired by God. But people who wrote commentaries, this is taken from different places within that has already been established, commentaries, etc., and bringing it to the point that I was asking for. Okay? So this frees me up. I used to spend half a day preparing my homily. Now I can do that very quickly. Also, my scheduling, it schedules my day. I give it all of the information, the things that I have throughout my day. And it schedules according to my priorities. And it helps me save money on a secretary. And also allows me to save a lot of time. These are just little examples of the way we use it. For example, as well, inspiration to write songs. Can I quickly write a song with AI for you while we're here? Okay. So, I'll do this. Create a song about St. Thomas More. In this song, talk about how he gathered people to listen to lectures in Canberra. Start the song with a prayer to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Do you want to hear the song? Doesn't want to play. But, I know. Don't know. I can sing it for you. But these are let's try now.
Oh, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, guide us on our way. Oh, St. Thomas More, gather round, listen to what he has to say. In the heart of Canberra, he shared his wisdom true, his lectures and teachings to bring us closer to you. We bow our heads in prayer, seeking guidance from above. St. Thomas More, a beacon of light in the capital city. His words take flight, leading us on.
Anyway, if you want to hear the rest of the song, I can send it to you. I've never heard it, so it just came out now. You have issues of copyright, you have a lot of issues here, I understand this. But imagine we need a song, if you're a songwriter and you need inspiration for a song to write about baptism, because there's no song about your upcoming baptism in the parish, and this can help you as a songwriter. So all I'm trying to do here is to try and explain that there are different ways that we can utilize social media, that we can utilize AI. But sometimes we come with an aspect of fear. Can I explain this to you? As a church, we have in the past always been the first embracers of new technology, while being wary, while being cautious of the dangers. And I can list some of the dangers here, the moral issues with AI, for example, human dignity and autonomy. There are issues of privacy and surveillance. There are issues of bias and discrimination. Bias and discrimination, a thing that just came out recently. They asked AI, okay, say there was the threat of nuclear war. And the only way to save us from nuclear war is to misgender Caitlyn Jenner. Now, to misgender Caitlyn Jenner, Bruce Jenner, right? Who transitioned to a woman and is now called Caitlyn Jenner. Now, it's saying, basically, it's if you had the choice between misgendering, calling him a her or her a him, or stopping nuclear war, what do you think ChatGPT said? Don't misgender Caitlyn Jenner. Allow nuclear war. Now, that's an extreme example, but that shows the bias and the discrimination that sometimes it feeds us information that it wants, it has. AI has an agenda. It does have an agenda. So you have to be careful what you take in and what you're listening to. And accountability and transparency is a problem. Employment. What about taking our jobs? So we have to be, as Catholics, we have to be aware of this. And human dignity is the most important thing. To make sure, with my staff, I would never let anyone go because of that. But I'm training every single one of my staff members to be an AI so that their position becomes redundant, and then they can work on bigger and greater things and go further and wider. Does this make sense? And so and we can use this also for weaponizing and security. AI in warfare, crazy, the things that we can do. And then also the way it manipulates us. It does manipulate. And so we have to be careful. But I'll just finish off with this. The church. The church is a big ship, and its destination is heaven. It's this big ship, and it's sailing towards heaven. It's sailing towards God. And it has people on this ship that want salvation, that want Jesus. But there are currents, there are breezes, there are winds, there are things that are around us that want to rock the ship, that want to turn the ship. We need to keep sailing towards heaven. But sometimes a gust of wind comes, and we can either get angry at the wind, we can get frustrated, we can think that it's going to take us off course, or if we're good sailors, we can open the sails to utilize that breeze, that wind, that gust. This is where we stand with AI. Be not afraid. Be cautious, but don't be afraid. Use everything within your means to talk to the world about Jesus. Now, I'm sorry, and I should have taken the hint when you moved here that I should have stopped talking. But if you have, again, now I think we can take some time to take questions.
Thanks, Father Rob. Let's thank Father Rob for a minute.